Hey, everyone. My name's Emily Carter, and honestly, I don't even know where to begin. I'm 31 years old, doing well in my marketing career, and for the longest time, I thought I had a decent grip on my family's drama. But all of that unraveled the moment my younger sister, Lily, started planning her wedding. I wanted to be there for her, to help create the perfect day she had always dreamed of. But it didn't take long to realize that things were about to get way more complicated than I'd expected. The presence of our father, Thomas, loomed over everything like an unwanted shadow. Ever since his divorce, he hadn't been the same, lost in a cycle of bad decisions and too much alcohol. One of the worst, in my opinion? His latest girlfriend, Samantha. From the second I met her, something just felt off. One afternoon, as Lily and I were picking out flowers, she turned to me, her voice laced with worry. "Emily, do you think Dad will actually show up sober?" she asked, eyes full of fragile hope. I forced a reassuring smile. "I really hope so. For your sake, I do." But deep down, I wasn't sure hope would be enough. As the wedding day got closer, I felt less like a maid of honor and more like a referee, constantly stepping in to keep the peace. My boyfriend, Jake, was my rock through it all. Whenever I started spiraling, he'd pull me aside and say, "Babe, you can't control everything." I know, I'd reply, even though my mind wouldn't stop racing. But the one thing I knew for sure? If Dad ruined Lily's wedding, I would never forgive him. I had no idea things were about to spiral into something much worse. About a week before the wedding, I met up with my best friend, Sarah, for coffee. She's always been my voice of reason, and I needed her more than ever. "What's really going on with you and Samantha?" she asked, giving me a look that said she already knew something was off. I leaned in, lowering my voice as if someone might overhear. "There's something sketchy about her, Sarah. She latched onto Dad so fast, and she's always whispering things to him. And get this, I overheard her on the phone talking about some big score coming up." Sarah's expression darkened. "You think she's scamming him?" I exhaled slowly. "I don't know. But I intend to find out." That conversation lit a fire in me. I spent my nights scrolling through social media, making quiet calls to some of Dad's old friends, trying to piece together a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. The day before the wedding, Lily and I were at the venue for some last-minute checks when, out of nowhere, Dad and Samantha showed up unannounced. "Daddy!" Lily squealed, rushing to hug him. I stayed back, watching carefully. Samantha's eyes darted around the room, scanning everything like she was calculating something. "And Dad?" "My little girl, all grown up," he slurred. My heart sank. He was already drunk. "Thomas, darling, let's check out the bar," Samantha cooed, shooting me a smug glance. As they walked off, I clenched my fists, trying to swallow the anger bubbling inside me. I had to stay calm, for Lily. She turned to me, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Emily?" I didn't let her finish. Pulling her into a tight hug, I whispered, "Don't worry, sis. Tomorrow is about you and Ryan. Nothing is going to ruin it." If only I had known how wrong I was. They say there's always a calm before the storm. Ours was brewing, and when it hit, it would be a Category 7 hurricane. As I held Lily close, I made a silent promise, no matter what, I would protect her happiness. At the time, I had no idea that I'd soon be fighting for something much bigger than just a perfect wedding day. The moment I stepped into the reception, my eyes landed on him, Dad, already drunk, leaning heavily against the bar while Samantha clung to his arm like a lifeline. My stomach dropped. Jake, always tuned into my moods, leaned in and whispered, "You okay?" I forced a weak smile. "I just need to keep it together for Lily." But in the pit of my stomach, I knew it was only a matter of time before things spiraled out of control. As the night dragged on, the tension in the air thickened. Dad's laughter grew louder, more erratic, his movements sloppy and uncoordinated. Meanwhile, Samantha's sharp eyes flitted across the room, her expression unreadable, but something about it made my skin crawl. Something was off. "Emily, Dad's making a scene," Lily murmured, anxiety creeping into her voice. "I've got it," I said, trying to sound confident, though my nerves were shot. I made my way toward him just as he attempted an unsteady Macarena, his feet tangling as he nearly toppled over, laughing as if nothing was wrong. "Dad," I said, keeping my voice even, "let's step outside for some fresh air." "Nonsense," he slurred, waving me off. "I'm celebrating my baby girl's big day." He tried to twirl but lost his footing, barely catching himself. Samantha was at his side in an instant, tightening her grip on his arm. "Leave him alone," she snapped. "He's just having a little fun." I took a deep breath, holding my ground. "This isn't about fun, Samantha. It's about showing some respect for Lily." Her expression darkened, her lips curling into a sneer. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always trying to run the show." And just like that, we were in each other's faces, our voices rising. We moved to a quieter corner, but the tension followed us like a storm cloud. "You don't know a damn thing about our family," I bit out, my patience gone. Samantha's eyes glinted as she leaned in, her voice dripping with venom. "I know one thing, your daddy would rather be with me than deal with you." Something inside me snapped. "Oh yeah?" I shot back, my voice trembling with rage. "Was that before or after you drained him dry?" Her expression twisted with fury. And before I could even process what was happening, she ripped off one of her heels and swung it straight at my head. For a split second, everything slowed. Then, pain. Blinding, sharp pain radiated through my skull as the heel connected with my temple. Screams erupted around us. Chairs crashed to the floor. Guests scrambled back, horrified. Chaos exploded in every direction. Through the blur of movement, my eyes found Lily. How had we ended up here? I had promised to protect her, to make sure her wedding was perfect. And now? Now it was turning into an absolute nightmare. She stood frozen, her face pale as Ryan held her back. Security swarmed in, grabbing Samantha as she thrashed and screamed, hurling obscenities at anyone who got too close. And then, in the middle of it all, I spotted Dad. His face was blank, his expression unreadable. But in his eyes, I saw it, defeat. That was the moment I knew. Things would never be the same again. The days after the wedding were a haze of police reports, interviews, and restless, sleepless nights. Every little noise made me flinch. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Samantha's face twisted with rage, the moment she lunged at me playing on a loop in my mind. Jake was my anchor through all of it. He held me close whenever the nightmares jolted me awake, whispering, "You're safe now, Emily." But I wasn't sure I believed that. How could I feel safe when my own father's girlfriend had tried to attack me? How do you even begin to move on from something like that? Lily was struggling just as much as I was. When I visited her a week later, she could barely look at me. "All those months of planning," she murmured, voice heavy with sorrow. "And for what? No matter what I do, my wedding will always be remembered as the day someone tried to hurt my sister." "Lily, I'm so sorry," I said, guilt pressing down on me like a weight. She shook her head, cutting me off. "I know it's not your fault, Emily. But still. I can't help feeling like our family is cursed." While Lily was drowning in pain, Dad was stuck in denial. The voicemails started almost immediately. "Emily, sweetheart, let's not make this a big deal," he'd say, his voice slurred. Samantha was just upset. She didn't mean anything by it. Every message sent my blood boiling. The final straw came when he showed up at my apartment, the stench of alcohol hitting me before he even spoke. "Dad, you need to leave," I said, gripping the doorknob tight. "But Pumpkin, we're family. We gotta stick together," he slurred, swaying slightly. Something inside me hardened. "No, Dad. We're done. I can't do this anymore." For a brief moment, I saw the hurt in his eyes. Almost, I wavered. But then I closed the door. And I knew I had made the right choice. Hearing him defend her after everything she had done, it was enough to make my blood boil. But the breaking point? That came when he showed up at my apartment, the stench of alcohol clinging to him like a second skin. When I opened the door, he was standing there, unsteady on his feet, his glassy eyes struggling to focus on me. "Dad, you need to go," I said, keeping my voice firm, though my hands clenched at my sides. "But, Pumpkin, we're family. We stick together," he slurred, his tone pitiful, almost pleading. I stared at him, something inside me hardening. No, Dad, I said, my voice quieter now but no less certain. We're done. I can't do this anymore. For a second, I saw it, the hurt flashing across his face. And for just a moment, I almost wavered. Almost. But as I shut the door, sealing him out, I knew deep down, it was the right thing to do. Meanwhile, Sarah, my relentless, no-nonsense best friend, had taken it upon herself to dig into Samantha's past. And what she uncovered left me speechless. Emily, look at this, she said one night, spreading a pile of papers across my coffee table. I scanned the pages, my stomach twisting. Fraud. Assault. A rap sheet longer than I ever could have imagined. How did Dad not see this? I muttered, the bile rising in my throat. Sarah hesitated, biting her lip. Then she sighed. That's the thing, Emily. I think he did. Her words hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. And as if that wasn't enough, the deeper we dug, the worse it got. Joint bank accounts. Suspicious money transfers. A paper trail that told a story I didn't want to believe. Dad wasn't just some unsuspecting victim in Samantha's schemes. He was part of it. Telling Lily was one of the hardest things I've ever done. We sat together in her kitchen, the air heavy with unspoken pain. In the corner, a beautifully wrapped wedding gift sat unopened, a silent reminder of what should have been the happiest day of her life. I can't believe this, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. How could he do this to us? I don't even know who he is anymore. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't either, Lily. But we have to protect ourselves now. She met my gaze, something shifting in her expression, grief melting into resolve. I'm with you, Emily, she said, her voice stronger now. Always. Her words should have reassured me. But the guilt still sat heavy on my chest. I had exposed our father for who he truly was. And in doing so, I might have destroyed his life. Then again, hadn't he done that himself? The mix of anger, confusion, and guilt became too much to carry on my own. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I asked for help. That's how I found myself sitting in a therapist's office, trying to make sense of it all. Emily, what you're feeling is normal, Dr. Foster said kindly, her voice steady and sure. You've been through something traumatic. You're grieving the loss of the father you thought you had. I stared at my hands, my chest tight. But shouldn't I hate him? After everything he's done? She shook her head gently. There's no should when it comes to emotions. What matters is allowing yourself to feel and process it. That sounded easy enough. But it wasn't. Still, when I walked out of that office that day, something felt lighter. It wasn't much, but it was something. A spark of hope, small but real. Maybe, just maybe, I could build something good from the wreckage of my family's past. 4 months after the wedding disaster, I found myself in a place I never expected, happy. Despite everything, I had a support system that held me together. Lily, Jake, Sarah, we had become a team, stronger than ever before. One night, sitting around my apartment, takeout containers scattered across the table, Lily raised her glass. To new beginnings, she said, smiling for the first time in a long time. And to family, I added, clinking my glass against hers. The one we choose. Samantha's trial turned into a media circus. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension as the details of her crimes were laid bare for everyone to see. Dad sat beside me, his face unreadable, as revelation after revelation painted a picture of the woman he had trusted. But the biggest shock was still to come. Sarah and I had spent months gathering evidence, connecting the dots. When the prosecution stood up and addressed the court, my breath caught in my throat. Your Honor, we have documentation proving Thomas Carter's involvement in Ms. Reed's fraudulent activities. The room went silent. Dad's head snapped up. And just like that, the last piece of my father's image shattered. As the legal battle raged on, my personal life took an unexpected turn, for the better. One quiet Sunday afternoon, my boss called me into his office. Emily, we're promoting you to Senior Marketing Director, he said with a smile. Your resilience and creativity this past year have been outstanding. I sat there for a second, stunned. Then I grabbed my phone and called Jake. Babe, I breathed, still processing it. I got promoted. His laughter came through the line, warm and full of pride. That's incredible, he said. I'm so proud of you. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe it.